It was a quiet Saturday morning, the kind where the sun pours through the windows and everything feels like it could be productive. I decided it was finally time to tackle the garage, a place that had become more storage room than anything else over the years. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, old furniture leaned against the walls, and cobwebs decorated corners like neglected art. As I rummaged through a pile of dusty items, I noticed a small, forgotten box tucked under an old workbench. Curious, I pulled it out and opened it. Inside, amidst old receipts and random papers, lay an old phone. I immediately recognized it was my wife, Lila's, old phone from years ago. I hadn't seen it in ages. "What's this doing here?" I muttered to myself, brushing off the dust. The phone was dead, so I carried it to the kitchen counter to plug it in and see if it still worked. After a few minutes, the screen flickered to life, and I found myself staring at a device that felt like a time capsule. I knew I probably shouldn't dig through it after all. It was private, but a part of me couldn't resist. Curiosity gnawed at me. I tapped the unlock button, and to my surprise, it hadn't been reset. A lock code was needed, but I guessed the old one she sometimes used. When it opened, I was stunned that the first thing I noticed were the messages. Not the usual texts from family or friends, but old conversations with someone whose name I didn't immediately recognize. My heart rate spiked as I scrolled. The messages were intimate, filled with emotion, inside jokes, and confessions that weren't meant for anyone else. The person was clearly someone significant from her past. I tried to make sense of it. Lila had always been private about her past relationships, but I had never suspected anything lingering. The texts, however, suggested a closeness I didn't expect. There were plans to meet, hidden apologies, even messages that hinted at love that I had never been part of. My mind raced, imagining the possibilities, feeling a mixture of curiosity, anger, and confusion. As I continued scrolling, I discovered pictures. Photos of her laughing with someone at a cafe, another holding hands with someone in a park. I recognized some of the locations. They were places we had been together. But these pictures were dated years before our marriage. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking maybe this was just old history. But then, I found something that made me freeze. A folder labeled private caught my eye. I hesitated for a moment, then tapped it. The photos inside weren't old, they were recent, taken just months ago. My heart sank. They showed Lila with the same person from the messages, meeting in secret, laughing, touching hands. It was clear they were close. My mind swirled with disbelief. Was this really happening? Could she have been hiding something like this from me? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was harmless, a friendship gone slightly intimate, nothing serious. But the next few messages told a different story. They were explicit, talking about moments they shared alone, moments that had nothing to do with me. Betrayal crashed over me like a tidal wave. I felt dizzy, my hands trembling as I scrolled. Anger and heartbreak mixed into a bitter cocktail. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I been living under? I replayed our conversations, our dinners, our late-night talks, trying to find clues I had missed. Everything seemed ordinary, but now it felt like a carefully constructed mask. Then I stumbled upon the most shocking revelation of all, a saved draft. Never sent, titled simply, "If I Tell Him." My hands shook as I opened it. The words inside were raw and unfiltered, confessions of love and longing for someone else, admissions of guilt and shame, and a plan she had considered to end it all or walk away without telling me. My stomach dropped, and I felt like the floor beneath me had vanished. I sat there for what felt like hours, processing everything. I had loved her blindly, trusted her completely. And now I was staring at evidence that shattered my perception of our life together. Questions swirled in my mind. Was our marriage real for her? Or had I been living a beautiful lie? Eventually, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let this sit inside me, festering into resentment and despair. But I also knew I needed to be calm, to control my anger, and to speak from a place of clarity, not impulse. When she came home that evening, I was waiting. She looked surprised to see me sitting quietly at the kitchen table. "Hey, what are you doing here so early?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I let her feel the weight of my gaze, the silence stretching between us. Finally, I said, "I found your old phone in the garage today." Her face paled slightly. "Oh, yeah. That's just don't," I interrupted. I turned it on. I saw the messages. I saw the pictures. I saw everything. She froze, realizing immediately that I knew more than she expected. Her eyes welled with tears, and she took a step back. I can explain," she whispered, her voice shaking. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my tone calm but firm. "I want to hear it. No lies, no excuses. Just the truth." Lila sat down, and she began to speak, her words tumbling out in a rush. She admitted that she had met someone a few months ago, that she had formed a connection that she hadn't anticipated, and that she had hidden it because she didn't want to destroy our family. She claimed it was a mistake, a fleeting moment. But the photos and messages painted a different picture, one of prolonged deceit and secrecy. I listened quietly, absorbing every word. My emotions were a storm: pain, anger, betrayal, but underneath it all, I realized something crucial. I had discovered the truth, and now I had the power to decide what came next. I could react impulsively, in anger or despair, or I could respond with clarity, taking control of my own life. After what felt like an eternity, I spoke. "Lila, what you did is unforgivable in terms of trust. I can't pretend this didn't happen. I can't just go back to the way things were. But I also know that I deserve honesty, respect, and a partner who chooses me fully. You've shown me you can't do that right now." Tears streamed down her face, and she reached for my hand. "Please, I love you. I don't want to lose you." I pulled my hand back gently. "Love isn't just words, Lila. It's actions, commitment, and loyalty. Right now, I need to think about what's best for me, for us, and for our future. I need space to process this, and I need to see if trust can ever be rebuilt." She nodded, silent and broken, understanding for the first time the gravity of what she had done. That night, I sat alone, reflecting on everything I had seen and learned. My life had been altered in an instant, but I also realized that I was stronger than I had given myself credit for. I had the ability to face betrayal, to process it, and to make decisions with clarity rather than rage. In the days that followed, we navigated a tense and fragile path. Lila wanted forgiveness, reconciliation, and another chance. But I took the time to consider what was truly right for me. I realized that discovering the truth, painful as it was, gave me power. It gave me knowledge that I could no longer ignore, and it forced me to evaluate my life, my marriage, and my self-respect. Weeks later, I made my decision. I confronted Lila once more, this time with a calm resolve. "I can't continue like this," I said. "I love you, but I can't live in a marriage where deceit is part of our history. We either start fresh with total transparency and commitment, or we end this. I deserve a life where trust isn't optional." She nodded, tears falling freely, knowing that the consequences of her actions had brought us to this point. She accepted my terms, and slowly, over months of therapy, conversations, and strict boundaries, we began the painstaking process of rebuilding. Some days were harder than others, but the knowledge that I had faced the truth head-on gave me strength I didn't know I possessed. That old phone in the garage, forgotten and dusty, had changed everything. It had exposed secrets, shattered illusions, and forced me to confront reality. And while it brought immense pain, it also brought clarity, power, and the opportunity to demand the respect and honesty I deserved. In the end, I learned that sometimes the most shocking revelations come from the most unlikely places, and that facing them with courage can transform despair into strength. That old phone, sitting quietly in the garage, had left me stunned, but it had also awakened a resilience within me that no betrayal could ever take away.